Welcome to Bob's, everybody. Today I'm going to read Amendment 11 through 27 to wrap up the amendments to the Constitution. Keep in mind, the Constitution is a living document, so some of these have been amended, or in the case of Prohibition, were reversed. And interesting. And I'm also referencing ushistory.org. You can probably see it up there on the screen. I want to make sure that I give them credit. I'm referencing them as a source for the reading of these amendments. Okay, so Amendment 11, Lawsuits against States. The judicial power of the United States shall not be construed to extend to any suit in law or equity commenced or prosecuted against one of the United States by citizens of another state or by citizens of subjects of any foreign state. That was February 7th, 1795. Amendment 12, Presidential Elections. The electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for the president and vice president, one of whom at least shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves. They shall name in their ballots the person voted for as president, and in distinct ballots the person voted for as vice president, and they shall make distinct lists of all persons voted for as president and of all persons voted for as vice president, and of the number of votes for each, which lists they shall sign and certify and transmit sealed to the seat of the government of the United States, directed to the President of the Senate. The President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and House of Representatives, open all certificates, and the votes shall then be counted. The person having the greatest number of votes for President shall be the President. If such number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed, if no person have such majority, then from the persons having the highest number of not exceeding 3 on the list of those voted for as President, the House of Representatives shall choose immediately by ballot the President. But in choosing the President, the votes shall be taken by seats. The representation from each state having one vote, a quorum for this purpose shall consist of a member or members from 2/3 of the states, and a majority of all the states shall be necessary to a choice. And if the House of Representatives shall not choose a president, whenever the right of choice shall devolve upon them before the 4th day of March next following, then the vice president shall act as the president, and in the case of death or constitutional disability of the president, the person having the greatest number of votes as vice president shall be the vice president, if such number be a majority of the whole number of the electors appointed, and if no person have a majority, then from the 2 highest numbers on the list the Senate shall choose the vice president. A quorum for the purpose shall consist of 2/3 of the whole number of senators, and a majority of the whole number shall be necessary to a choice. But no person constitutionally ineligible to the office of the President shall be eligible to that of the Vice President of the United States. And that was June 15th, 1804. It's superseded by Section 3 of the 20th Amendment later on in history. Amendment 13. Abolition of Slavery. Section 1. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States, or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Congress shall have power to enforce these articles by appropriate legislation. December 6, 1865. Amendment 14. Civil Rights. Section 1. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the states wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Section 2. Representatives shall be apportioned among the several states according to their respective numbers, counting the whole number of persons in each state, excluding Indians not taxed. But when the right to vote at any election for the choice of electors for President and Vice President of the United States, representatives in Congress, the executive and judicial officers of a state, or the members of legislature thereof, it is denied to any of the male inhabitants of such state, being 21 years of age and citizens of the United States, or in any way abridged, except for the participation in rebellion or other crime, the basis of representation therein shall be reduced in proportion, which the number of such male citizens shall bear to the whole number of male citizens 21 years of age in such a state. Section 3. No person shall be a senator or representative in Congress, or elector of President and Vice President, or hold any office, civil or military, whom of the United States or any state who have previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States or as a member of any state legislature or as an executive or any judicial officer of any state to support the Constitution of the United States shall have engaged in insurrection of or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof, but Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such a disability. Section 4. The validity of the public debt of the United States authorized by law, including debts incurred for payment of pensions and bounties and services in suppressing insurrection or rebellion, shall not be questioned. But neither the United States nor any state shall assume or pay any debt or obligation incurred in aid of insurrection or rebellion against the United States, or any claim for the loss of emancipation of any slave, but all such debts, obligations, and claims shall be held illegal and void. Section 5. The Congress shall have power to enforce by appropriate legislation the provisions of this article. July 9th, 1868. Amendment 15. Black Suffrage. Section 1. The rights of the citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. Section 2. The Congress shall have the power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. February 3rd, 1870. Amendment 16. Income taxes. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived without apportionment among the several states and without regard to any census or enumeration. February 3rd, 1913. Amendment 17. Senatorial elections. The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, elected by the people thereof for 6 years, and each senator shall have 1 vote. The electors in each state shall have the qualifications requisite for electors of the most numerous branch of the state legislature. When vacancies happen in the representation of any state in the Senate, the executive authority of such state shall issue writs of election to fill such vacancies, provided that the legislature of any state may empower the executive thereof to make temporary appointments until the people fill the vacancies by election as the legislature may direct. This amendment shall not be construed as to affect the election or term of any senator chosen before it becomes valid as part of the Constitution. April 8th, 1913. Amendment 18. The Prohibition of Liquor. Section 1. After 1 year from the ratification of this article, the manufacture, sale, or transportation of intoxicating liquors within the importation thereof into or the exportation thereof from the United States and all territories subject to the jurisdiction thereof for beverage purposes is hereby prohibited. Section 2. The Congress and the several states shall have concurrent power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. Section 3. This article shall be inoperative unless it shall have been ratified as an amendment to the Constitution by the legislatures of the several states, as provided in the Constitution within 7 years from the date of the submission hereof to the states by the Congress. January 16, 1919. This was repealed by the 21st December 5, 1933, so it is no longer in the Constitution. Amendment 19. Women's Suffrage. The right of the citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any states on account of sex. Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. August 18, 1920. Amendment 20. Terms of Office. Section 1. The terms of the President and the Vice President shall end at noon on the 20th day of January, and the terms of Senators and Representatives at noon on the 3rd day of January of the years in which such terms would have ended if this article had not been ratified. And the terms of their successors shall then begin. Section 2. The Congress shall assemble at least once a year, and such meetings shall begin at noon on the 3rd day of January, unless they shall by law appoint a different day. Section 3. If at the time fixed for the beginning of the term of the President-elect shall have died, the Vice President-elect shall become President. If a President shall not have been chosen before the time fixed for the beginning of his term, or if the President-elect shall have failed to qualify, then the Vice President-elect shall act as President until a President shall have qualified. And the Congress may by law provide for the case wherein neither a President-elect nor a Vice President-elect shall have qualified, declaring who shall then act as President, or the manner in which one who is to act shall be selected, and such person shall act accordingly until a President or Vice President shall have qualified. Section 4. The Congress may, by law, provide for the case of the death of any of the persons from whom the House of Representatives may choose a president whenever the right of the choice shall be devolved upon them, and for the case of the death of any of the persons from whom the Senate may choose a vice president whenever the right of the choice shall have devolved upon them. Section 5. Section 1 and 2 shall take effect on the 15th day of October following the ratification of this article. Section 6. The article shall be inoperative unless it shall have been ratified as an amendment to the Constitution by the legislatures of 3/4 of the several states within 7 years from the date of its submission. That was January 23, 1933. Repeal of Prohibition Amendment 21. Section 1. The 18th article of the amendment of the Constitution of the United States is hereby repealed. Section 2. The transportation or importation into any state, territory, or possession of the United States for delivery or use therein of intoxicating liquors in violation of the laws thereof is hereby prohibited. Section 3. The article shall be inoperative unless it shall have been ratified as an amendment to the Constitution by the conventions in the several states as provided in the Constitution within 7 years from the date of submission hereof to the states by Congress, December 5, 1933. Amendment 22. Term limits for the presidency. Section 1. No person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice. And no person who has held the office of president or acted as president for more than 2 years of a term to which some other person was elected, president shall be elected to the office of the president more than once. But this article shall not apply to any person holding the office of the president when this article was proposed by the Congress, and shall not prevent any person who may be holding the office of president or acting as president during the term within which this article becomes operative, and holding the office of the president or acting as president during the remainder of such term. Section 2. This article shall be inoperative unless it shall have been ratified as an amendment to the Constitution by the legislature of 3/4 of the several states within 7 years from the date of its submission to the states by the Congress, February 27, 1951. Amendment 23. Washington, D.C. Suffrage. Section 1. The district consulting the seat of the government of the United States shall appoint in such manner as the Congress may direct a number of electors of president and vice president equal to the whole number of senators and representatives in Congress to which the district would be entitled if it were a state, but in no event more than the last populous state. They shall be in addition to those appointed by the states, but they shall be considered for the purposes of the election of the president and vice president to be electors appointed by a state, and they shall meet in the district and perform such duties as provided by the 12th article of amendment. Section 2. The Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. March 29, 1961. Amendment 24. Abolition of poll taxes. Section 1. The right of citizens of the United States to vote in any primary or other election for president or vice president, for electors, or for president or vice president, or for senator or representative in Congress shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state by reason of failure to pay any poll tax or other tax. Section 2. The Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. January 23, 1964. Amendment 25. Presidential succession. Section 1. In the case of the removal of the president from the office or of his death or resignation, the vice president shall become president. Section 2. Whenever there is a vacancy in the office of the president shall nominate a vice president who shall take office upon confirmation by a majority vote of both houses of Congress. Section 3. Whenever the president transmits to the president pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives his written declaration that he is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, and until he transmits them a written declaration to the contrary, such powers and duties may be discharged by the vice president as acting president. Section 4. When the vice president and a majority of either the principal officers of the executive departments or of such other body as Congress may by law provide, transmit to the president pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives their written declaration that the president is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, the vice president shall immediately assume the powers and duties of the office as acting president. Thereafter, the president transmits to the president pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives his written declaration that no inability exists, he shall resume the powers and duties of his office unless the Vice President and a majority of either the principal officers of the Executive Department or such other body as Congress made by law transmit within 4 days to the President pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives to their written declaration that the President is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office. Thereupon, Congress shall decide the issue, assembling with 48 hours for that purpose, if not in session. If Congress within 21 days after receipt of the latter written declaration, or if Congress is not in session within 21 days after Congress is required to assemble, determines by 2/3 vote of the House that the President is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, the President shall continue to discharge the same as acting President. Otherwise, the President shall resume the powers and duties of his office. February 10th, 1967. Amendment 26, 18-year-old suffrage. Section 1. The right of the citizens of the United States who are 18 years of age or older to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of age. Section 2. The Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. June 30th, 1971. Amendment 27. Congressional pay raises. No law varying the compensation for the services of the senators and representatives shall take effect until an election of representatives shall have intervened. May 7, 1992. Note: Congress submitted the text of this amendment as part of its proposed Bill of Rights on September 27, 1789. The amendment was not ratified together with the first 10 amendments. And that is the rest of the amendments in the United States Constitution. As you can see, I may go ahead and dive into the Magna Carta after this, and which is also an important historical document, as it was English law and definitely had an impact on our Constitution as our founders were looking to create a country for themselves. I hope you enjoyed watching this and have a great day. Thanks for watching.